Hey guys, what's going on? Anthony here with Pistons Talk. I wanted to talk to you guys about the trade the Detroit Pistons did make a couple of days ago. I know I'm late to it. I do apologize for that. Um, but I purposely waited because I wanted to see what second round picks were actually attached to this trade. And for you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, maybe I'm getting way too ahead of myself so far. Your Detroit Pistons did make a trade. They're sending Marvin Bagley III and Isaiah Livers and a 2025 second and a 2026 second to the Wizards in exchange for Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala. Now, like I said at the top of this video, I wanted to wait and see which second round picks were actually attached in this trade. Now, before this trade, the Pistons had 5 second round picks, and I was really nervous that it was this year's 2024 second round pick that I believe is owned by Washington and Memphis. It's a more favorable second because that's going to be a really good second round pick in this year's draft, obviously. That wasn't attached in this trade, thank God. Obviously, the Pistons don't own their own second round pick this year. That is actually owned by the Raptors because the Knicks had it, but they used it to land OG Anunoby. We can kind of go sidetrack for a minute. For you guys that are wondering what second round pick I was worried about, it's the one at the top, the 2024 second round pick from Memphis or Washington, whichever is more favorable. The reason why I was worried is because that second round pick is going to be a really good second round pick. The Memphis Grizzlies this year have had so many injuries. They're going to be a lottery team this year. And the Washington Wizards, much like the Pistons, are rebuilding, and they're going to be a lottery team this year. So that second round pick in 2024 is going to be very good. It's going to be, low to mid 30s. And like I said, you could get a good guy in the low to mid 30s in the second round, depending if the Pistons keep it or not. And the other second round picks that the Pistons have is they have one 2027 second round pick from Brooklyn or Dallas, less favorable. That could possibly be a second round pick that they try to trade. And they have a 2029 second round pick from the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, who knows where the Milwaukee Bucks will be in 2029? Maybe that draft pick will actually be pretty good. You never know. Maybe Giannis declines a little bit over the next 5 years, hopefully. But did want to kind of update you guys on that of how many second round picks the Detroit Pistons have. Because I know some Pistons fans were upset that we even attached 2 seconds just to get off Bagley's contract. But hey, I think that's the biggest reason why they did it. They wanted to create more cap space. And with this trade, they actually created a trade exception. Now, this comes from Keith Smith. If you guys don't know who Keith Smith is, really good follow if you want to understand more of, the cap space aspect of trades and stuff like that. But he had tweeted a minor thing from the Detroit and Washington trade. The Pistons chose to create a TPE for Marvin Bagley in the trade. That keeps them an over-the-cap team. That means they cannot re-aggregate Danilo Gallinari or Mike Muscala in a future trade. Had Detroit not created that TPE and gone under the cap, they could have re-aggregated Gallinari or Muscala in a future trade. Pistons can still trade Gallinari or Muscala, but have to do it as individual deals. Obviously, they did create, I think, 5.6, close to 6 million in a TPE with this trade. Now, whether or not they use it, we're going to have to wait and see. But for you guys wondering, can you package a Gallinari and Muscala? Obviously, you can't because the Pistons elected to take the 5.6 million in trade exceptions. So you can't do that. So you'd have to trade them individually, as Keith Smith did state. Now, I said at the top of this video that the biggest reason why the Detroit Pistons made this trade was cap space, right? And I think when you hear that out of my mouth, you hear that out of probably, so many, Detroit Pistons podcasters out there is cap space, cap space, cap space. And that's all we get told. We're going to have cap space. We're going to go get that big fish. We're going to do it eventually, right? Now, with this trade, this comes from Michael Scotto. He said Detroit Pistons have 64 million in cap space this summer by trading Marvin Bagley's 12.5 million salary. Troy Weaver is setting Detroit up to make a free agency splashes like the Houston Rockets as a year ago, as Bobby Marks noted on the Hoop Site podcast. Now, if you guys didn't listen to that podcast, I will save you probably an hour of your time they basically were saying they could see the Detroit Pistons having a free agency this summer, much like the Houston Rockets did. They paid Fred VanVleet, they paid Dylan Brooks, they got good vets in Jeff Green. They think Detroit could have that similar type of free agency. Now, me being a Pistons fan, I'm kind of skeptical. And the reason why I'm skeptical is in 4 years under Troy Weaver with this front office, they really haven't been a organization that looks to make big splashes in free agency. And obviously, Troy's first year, you can't really count it. Blake Griffin was still in the books. There were marginal moves that he could make. But, this past summer, didn't really do too much with the cap space. He signed Joe Harris and Monte Morris, and those both really haven't worked out so far. Monte Morris has been injured all this season. He could possibly come back next week. Joe Harris has been in and out of the lineup, hasn't really been the shooter that probably the Pistons want him to be. So cap space this year, the way they used it, I would say was a failure. That's why I'm skeptical of them trying to go out and signing, veteran free agents, trying to, get, a quote unquote big fish. I'm kind of skeptical with that. I think what they're probably going to do over the next couple of weeks, you guys, is I think they're going to use a majority of that cap space on a trade. Now, whether that's Zach LaVine, whether that is Pascal Siakam, Andrew Wiggins, Jeremy Grant, Tobias Harris, who knows? But I think this front office has shown you that they're not a organization that wants to use free agency to acquire talent. Since Troy has come here, he's always looked in the trade market, and I think that's where the cap space is going to be spent. That's just my opinion. Now, maybe, Bobby Marks and Michael Scott know something I don't. They probably do. I'm not a reporter by any means. I'm just a fan at the end of the day, but just, having some evidence with this organization over the last, 4 or so years, they really haven't gone out in free agency and signed that quote unquote big fish that, a lot of us get excited about. Like they really haven't. Like you could even go back even before Troy got here. I mean, the last time they signed a big name free agent was like what? Josh Smith? Like, I mean, come on. This organization isn't really an organization that seems to, go out and get those big fishes because, not to say that Detroit isn't a destination that free agents want to come. It's just not an organization that has won a whole lot of games under Troy Weaver's tenure so far. But I know I rambled a little bit. I did want to touch on the contracts. Now, I know a lot of you guys, you saw Danilo Gallinari, you saw Mike Muscala. They're both on expiring deals, you guys. So we could start with Danilo Gallinari first. He is going to be an unrestricted free agent in 2024. He's only making around $6 million. Mike Muscala, again, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent at 33. And he's on a $3.5 million contract. So these guys are on really cheap contracts. So I'm not really too upset with this trade. I get it. At the end of the day, it was a salary dump by Troy Weaver and company. But I just kind of think they probably could have got something a little bit more for Marvin Bagley. I don't really think he had to attach 2 seconds just to get off his contract. Even at $12 million, I think teams around the league probably could have used his bench scoring. Probably could have used just his, post presence alone, but that's just my opinion. Wanted to touch on this for a little bit because it has been a couple of days. Those second round picks that they did trade out, they're not really that valuable. You shouldn't get really too upset if you're a Piston fan at the end of the day, but let me know down below in the comment section what you think of this trade. Give me a letter grade. I'll give you my letter grade right now. I think this is a C- trade at the end of the day. I thought they could have got more for Bagley. I'm not too in love with trading draft picks when you're a 4-win basketball team, but talk to me down in the comment section. Give this trade a letter grade, and I'll talk to you guys down there. Like always, hope you guys are staying safe. Take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.